Hi, I'm Jeff Vieira. Welcome to Culture is Everything. Today I'd like to talk to you about the model that we use within the book to kind of frame out how culture interplays with other aspects of running our business. Okay, so we'll start out taking a look at a topic that we covered in the What is Culture video, where we talked about where culture comes from. Culture comes from leadership. Okay. Also in that video, we defined what a company culture is. It's the manner by which an organization's values are communicated, understood, and lived. Okay, so it comes from leadership and is an effective carrier for the organization's values to make sure that everybody within the organization is ultimately living the values of that organization. Okay. So when we think in terms of overall what a company's trying to do, there are some other aspects of a company's operations that you're no doubt familiar with. You may have heard the phrase culture eats strategy for breakfast. Okay, so what is strategy? Strategy is a plan for how the company is going to operate, what it's going to do. Usually it's over a certain time frame, sometimes a 3 to 5 year horizon. That's probably most common, sometimes just a year. But essentially, what a strategy is it's a plan for the company to do something, hopefully aligned with the company's purpose. So leadership defines strategy, much as they define culture. A lot of folks would say the purpose of leadership is to set that company's strategy, right? So if we look at strategy and culture as kind of opposite ends on a balance, a device that you use to weigh things, you would see that the strategy and the culture side of things complement one another, right? It's great to have a plan for doing something. You have to have a plan. You have to have some notion of where you're going and where you're looking to take the business, what it's going to do over time. You also have to have a culture in place that will allow your people to make that strategy operational. At the intersection of strategy and culture, we have process. For the quality professionals in the audience, that's where we live our lives, right? Down in the process level of things. But we all know that you can have great processes, and if they're in service of a bad strategy or a culture which isn't suitable, those processes aren't going to be able to do very much, right? So if we think about it as kind of a triangle here, you've got strategy, culture coming together to form the business processes. Those processes are what enable execution of the strategy. They enable us to live out our values, right? And then that execution is ultimately what delivers results. So the way I would put it is pretty simple. Leadership defines the strategy and the culture. That determines the processes which enable execution and delivers results. At the end of the day, what everyone's interested in out of that company is the results that we are getting from it. Okay, what is it doing? How is it fulfilling its purpose? What value is that company generating? All of that comes from that framework. So once again, leadership defines strategy, defines culture. The combination of that strategy and culture comes together in the processes which enable execution to deliver results. So if you're a quality professional like me and you've been living in the process space, you can't really afford to ignore strategy and culture, because without that firm foundation for the processes, we could improve the process to absolute perfection and it still wouldn't matter very much, right, in terms of what the company's trying to accomplish. Right. So another implication here is if we ignore culture in that mix. So leadership comes together, they do a fantastic job defining a compelling strategy, a really great vision for where this company is going. They put in place the processes which we think are going to enable that vision and enable us to accomplish those goals that are part of that strategy. Are we going to get execution? Well, let's think of a hypothetical example here. Let's say that we have a company which implements a new strategy. Okay, so the culture is very much one of customer service. This is one where every employee really lives the culture of the customer is always right. And let's say, in this example, that our strategy involves cutting costs. And as part of that strategy, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to take our customer service folks who have previously been internal, domestic to the company, the country that the company is based in, and we're going to move that out of the lines of business, create a separate organization. Maybe we'll even outsource it. Let's say that we're going to outsource it to another country, lower cost country. So that's going to help us lower costs, which could be a good thing for the company, right? It's our purpose. What's going to happen to all those customer service personnel that are in place today? Now they're going to lose their jobs. For the people in the business who are adjacent to customer service. So let's say we've got sales reps out there who depend on our customer service folks to create leverage for them when it comes time to re-up with us, for example. And so if there are outstanding problems with the customer service is a great ally to help make sure those problems are being addressed, that the customer feels like they're being taken care of, so they feel comfortable giving us the business when it's time to re-up at contract time. How are they going to feel about this turn of events? How are they going to welcome the fact that they can no longer get Stacy on the phone anytime, day or night, and they're going to have to go through a protocol? Let's assume for example that there could be language issues, there could be time zone issues with this other company that's going to be doing this now. Okay, how are they going to play that with the customer? Are they going to support the change, or are they going to report to the customer as a crazy phase that we're going through, and hopefully we'll come to our senses at some point? All right. So you can see that this is why when we go through these kind of transitions, there are sometimes unintended consequences that come from making these decisions. It's a similar thing in manufacturing when we take production and we move production to another country. We outsource it. Even if we just move it to another company, it tends to have a ripple effect within the organization depending on the culture of that organization. So if we ignore it, what you're going to tend to see is that a strategy which otherwise would have been reasonable, goals which otherwise would have been attainable, and results that would otherwise have been bookable are now put in jeopardy because the culture does not align with the strategy. If the culture is, and we covered this in the last video as well, if the culture is a way of doing something, if it helps the company fulfill its organizational purpose, then it's very important that we make sure that the culture suits that purpose. And ultimately, that is what's going to enable that strategy, which are going to ensure that the right processes are put in place, which is going to help us drive execution of that strategy and get the business results that we're looking for. Thank you very much.